lovers, beer fans. Welcome to the Third Pint Theory podcast, your audio pit stop for everything you want to know about beer in New
But
Zealand.
we're afraid to ask.
Yeah, everything. Actually, we could do a Q&A one day, live Q&A, everything you wanted to know about beer, but we're afraid to ask. Anyway, welcome. I'm Michael Donaldson, the editor of Pursuit of Hoppiness, and with me, as always, is my colleague.
Martin Bridges, the beer bigwig.
Yes, with his Obey Robots t-shirt on. If you're listening on audio only, seems appropriate for the time we're in. So this episode, Martin, is another of our Beervana sessions. We're moving away quite remarkably from August. We're in December now, but I think this one that we're doing with it features Brian Watson from Good George and Eddie Gapper from Altitude Brewing, and they came in wearing their hats as members of the Brewers Guild committee, and we talked a lot about the state of the beer industry in this one. And maybe back in August, there was a bit more doom and gloom, do you think?
I think possibly. I think it's been a tough year for breweries in New Zealand, as it has around the world, and I think hospo venues had a hard time. And at that point, I guess we were just coming out of winter, which is a tough time for breweries and hospo venues anyway. And as we sit here today, recording this, the sun is shining. It feels like summer's on the way. That in general, I think there is a kind of, people are looking forward to a good summer for the beer industry, and there are certainly things afoot which
Yes.
suggest that might be the case.
Yeah, and it is interesting that we're running with this episode now in a week where there's been so far 2 doses of what I would call good news for sure. The first one is that Hop Federation will survive, the brand, purchased from across the other side of the South Island by DNA Brewing in Blenheim, which is Dave Nichols, ex-Moa, ex-Tui, ex-Heineken. That's his sort of relatively new baby. DNA stands for Dave and Ant. DNA, Dave and Ant being Ant Moore, who's a winemaker who Dave's in partnership with. And the other bit of good news, slightly different, that Three Boys has changed hands, and the owners Ralph Bungard and his wife Bridget Casey have sold it to their head brewer Damien Treacher and his business partner, who's a guy called Jason Bass. And I wondered what you made of those 2, I guess, quite exciting changes or shake-ups in the brewery landscape.
Yeah, first of all, really good news that the Hop Federation brand has been saved, and that Simon Nicholas, the from Hop Federation, will be joining DNA as the head brewer for the Hop Federation beers. So I've always been a big fan of the Hop Federation beers, and it'll be great to see those continuing. I think over the last few months, DNA beers have been really getting a bit more prominent, and the quality has been ramping up there. Dave Nichols is a legend in the brewing industry, as you've highlighted. So I think the combination of those 2 things is great news.
Absolutely. And I think one of Dave's comments when it came around the purchasing of this brand from Conno, who was the previous owner of it, who had decided to shutter Hop Federation as kind of not really, they didn't see it as long-term viable. And Dave's point is around what he calls the oversupply of stainless steel in New Zealand, as in there is lots of brewing capacity, but the market can't handle it all. So the consolidation of two or possibly more brands under one umbrella is, and it's something that we've been talking about in the industry for a while, is something that should happen, might happen. And I think where it's happened in the past, it's been partnerships to an extent. And I think of Mount Brewing and Funk Estate in Tauranga there. And they were just two businesses trying to operate in the same space. And it's happened in other places, definitely. But DNA owning Hop Federation now, although it's a standalone brand, it's just much easier to run two entities coming out of the same brewery, I think. And I think we can possibly expect more.
I think possibly. I think I can see that happening, is that because it's expensive to build and operate a brewery, and you've got to be able to find somewhere to sell all the beer that you make out of that brewery, you know. So I think it's a good move. I think it gives DNA kind of access to a slightly different group of drinkers, maybe, who would be happy with keen on the Hop Federation beers, but possibly wouldn't have known the DNA beers. So
yeah,
I think I think it's a good thing. And then on the Three Boys side, I'm just really pleased for Ralph that, you know, he's found an exit strategy that works for him. You know, it's the first episode, wasn't it? The first
yes,
real episode other than the pilot of this podcast. I sat down with Ralph and we yarned for a long time about Three Boys and what it meant to him and what was important to him. And I could see that he would only take on that exit and that sale if it was to somebody that he believed would honor the legacy of Three Boys and take it forward. So I think that's just awesome news.
Yeah, and I mean, Damien might not be a name that's familiar to a lot of people, but I first met him. He seemed to be incredibly young, and he was like the assistant brewer at the laboratory out in Lincoln, which was I guess, the successor to the Twisted Hop after it got wrecked in the Christchurch earthquakes. And Martin Bennett was offered the council out. Selwyn District sort of lured him to take that enterprise out there to Lincoln, and Damien was his assistant and pretty good guy to learn the ropes from. They were doing kind of really good beer, and the cask ale in particular. Then he went to Beer Baroness, picked up a lot of awards with them.
That's the first time I came across him. That was the first time I came across Damien, was when he was at Beer Baroness, and I remember clearly that I think that's when Beer Baroness's beers took that leap to the next level. You know, they'd been going for a little while and they were okay, and then Damien came in and they were kind of suddenly at a significantly higher level. So I was very impressed with what he did there. And then once he'd gone to Three Boys, I thought that was an interesting move at the time because, you know, obviously he was making a mark for himself at Beer Baroness, and then you go into Three Boys and he's kind of part of a storied brewery, you know.
And you could say he had an immediate impact because I am pretty sure he'd only been there a little while when they won their first of the two New Zealand champion brewery crowns.
Mm.
And, the time he'd been there was not enough to have turned anything around. But the fact that they won it again, and one of the things Ralph said to me when talking about this, which I didn't have room for in the story I did because it was quite long, and it may see the light of day another time. He said one of the reasons that he thinks Three Boys won those two back-to-back champion brewery, well, not back-to-back, but 2 in 3 years champion brewery titles, was that he let the brewing team get on with it, that he had great trust in them. And he said, you brew, you make good beer. I have got to go and pay the bills and look after PAYE and do all that other community stuff as well that Three Boys are so known for in Christchurch. And I think so that indicated this great trust and an appreciation that you cannot always be an owner operator and have your finger in every little aspect of the business, and you have to let people who are good at stuff get on and be good at stuff. And so that's to his immense credit. And Damien is just one of the really nicest people, one of the best people you could hope to meet in the industry. Lovely guy. And I think Ralph Fiss, he said, it's going to someone who, in his words, is not going to shit on the brand. And, because the last thing he was ever going to do was sell to a big brewery or anything like that,
That was never going to happen.
That
was never going to happen, was it? And I think, I just think it's a really good outcome. And I really look forward to seeing what Damien and Jason can do with that with Three Boys. And I really hope that we see Ralph sticking around somewhere, because Ralph's a great character. And I hope he finds a way to remain involved in the beer business somehow.
He's one of the more outspoken, he's not a critic of the industry, but an observer, and a very intelligent observer of what's going on. He always gave me one of my favorite lines when way back in the day when I was researching my first book, The Beer Nation, and talking about the price of beer, and in particular, because one of his bugbears is big breweries, supermarkets, low-cost beer, and luring people into supermarkets with the promise of super cheap beer. A lot of that's been tidied up since the subsequent Sale of Liquor Act amendment in about 2012. But one of his lines was, no one crosses town for a cut price cabbage. But they'll go for cut price beer, It's and that's always stuck with me, that one. And he's right, So and he's quite outspoken on environmental issues, politics, or whatever. So I'm sure he'll pop his head up and have something to say about issues. So
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say just about Three Boys, and I think one of the and it came across in that episode you did with Ralph, is about being a really local brewery and staying local and being really strong in Christchurch. And that's quite and that's going to be an interesting thing for Damien and Jason to think about what they do, because Jason comes from, he's an American who works for a brewery in Seattle called Stoop, and I didn't know too much about them. I thought I had heard the name, but I went and had a look at them. They're quite a big enterprise. They've been going 12 years or something, but they have 3 venues in the sort of wider Seattle area, Oregon area. And it sounds to me, just talking to Damien as well, that they might want to just push that brand out a little bit further. And it would be interesting to see what they do with it, whether we start to see it a bit further afield or not. I don't know. that will be something to watch, because Jason's background is sales, logistics, distribution, all that kind of stuff. And he seems to have a real talent for it. He was doing it remotely in New Zealand for these guys in Seattle. So you can be sure that he was good at what he was doing. So, yeah, it's a different pair of hands. We might see a different face of Three Boys for sure. But it's not going to lose its heart, I don't think. So.
No, I think so. I think that's what I think it'll be an interesting twist on the core values of Three Boys.
Exactly. And the other thing I would say, just harking back to Hop Federation before we jump into this Beervana podcast, is that Simon staying on as the head brewer, face of the brand, etc. What they also managed to secure in the deal is that Hop Federation have a lot of taps in and around the Nelson area, and they've managed to kind of hold on to a lot of those, which I think is really good. So the brewery's not going to lose its presence in terms of where it comes from, because I still think your origin story and where you're from is still a really important part. Okay, it's getting brewed in Blenheim, but you know, in terms of the scale of New Zealand, it's a stone's throw away. It's just not like it's nonsense being brewed in Auckland. Yeah. So I do think that's good that it's again that it's kept local, so to speak.
Yeah, it's still top of the sale, so it's I think that's close enough. Yeah, probably not if you're from Blenheim or Nelson.
No. Although they have a unified Tasman rugby team now, so it's been going a while. As someone who once used to live in Blenheim, Nelson did seem a long way away, but I was 13. And anyway, so we're going to cross over to the Q&A that we did at Beervana with Brian Watson, who is the president of the Brewers Guild, and Eddie Gapper from Altitude Brewing. And we do talk a lot about the state of the beer industry, and there were some other really interesting observations around Brian talking about the move back, if you like, to single can sales as opposed to six packs, and just to do with the way people do shopping as well in a kind of post-COVID environment. But also a really interesting discussion about non-alcoholic beer.
Yes.
Didn't have a heckler as such, but we had a very passionate anti-non-alc.
An opinionated Australian. Who would have ever thought?
Yeah. So do listen for that towards the end. I thought it made for good banter. So yeah, without further ado, we'll cross over to that Beervana Q&A with Brian and Eddie, and we'll see you on the other side.
Okay, good afternoon, Beervana. Welcome back to those of you who came to the first of these little sessions. So for those of you who are new, this is a question and answer session. I'm Martin Bridges. This is Michael Donaldson. We are the Third Pint Theory podcast, and we're going to ask some questions of some brewers. We're going to give you the opportunity to ask some questions as well. And so we have here today with us, we have Eddie Gapper from Altitude Brewing. We have Brian Watson from Good George Brewing. For they're here today not just representing their breweries, but they're here representing the Brewers Guild of New Zealand. And I think we will start off by, what is the Brewers Guild of New Zealand? What does it do?
Thanks, Eddie. Brewers Guild of New Zealand is here to represent brewers in a number of areas, from challenging the government to make us not put in stupid labelling and licensing and everything we don't true, is trying to make the brewers, we here exist to the brewers to make their lives easier, to be able to facilitate business communication, and we are here to make sure that the brewers are as successful as we can possibly help them.
And that's true for brewers large and small. And we represent brewers, Lion and DB, Asahi at the top, and people like us at the bottom who are super small, and everyone in between. And Brian, who's somewhere in the middle.
And I think, you know, we're all here at Beervana because we like beer, and we like and
Yes.
and to have that range of beer available, we need that range of brewers to be around and to be successful. What sort of things, what sort of initiatives are the guild doing to kind of keep that going?
Well, I think the guild's role is really trying to make businesses' lives easier. And for us, small owner-operators, we've got 12 employees. We need help with compliance, labeling, lobbying, giving us the means to deal with our local MP to ask them to, you know, fight for us. You know, all of these things that larger businesses have the ability to do in-house. The guild basically steps in and holds our hand and takes us along with them. And so really, they're really a sort of facilitator.
That's great.
And look, another part of it, we're promoting beer tourism. So beer tourism is a real thing, and we're really promoting it. It's the power of the little people. It's the power of these small breweries. And so even the big breweries who are members of our organisation, they love the fact that we have the power because we've got human people involved in our business. And so we are dealing with family businesses, the people's lives, and then that whole beer tourism is a real thing. So we're promoting the Ale Trail. So if you get on the Ale Trail and have a look around the industry and around New Zealand, because it's pretty freaking cool what we're doing. The other big thing we do is the New Zealand Brewers Guild Awards, which we held 2 weeks ago in Christchurch, and it was a fantastic time. And we had and we've got a lot of recognition for our brewers and recognizing that we're making actually really freaking good beers in this country.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Brian. On the awards, you're currently in your hand is Powder Day Pilsner from Altitude Brewing, which was the trophy winner in that category at the New Zealand Beer Awards. And I reckon it's absolutely outstanding. I've given it the trophy, no trouble. It's delicious. One of 2 trophies for Altitude Brewing, and the other one in the hazy IPA category for their Remarks IPA. One thing, Brian, you've appeared in the media a number of times in the last few years to comment on the state of the industry, excise tax hikes, the cost of goods, inflation. What, if you sum it up, is the state of the New Zealand brewing industry now? I guess there's not one answer for that. It depends on the brewery, but what's the membership telling you?
Look, we all know, and it's not just our industry, it's bloody tough out there. It's a really tough industry. It's a real tough time for New Zealand. It's a tough time for, you look at the construction industry, you look at builders are, really doing it tough. And a lot of our members are doing it tough as well. However, we're finding that, and then I've been talking about this as well, there's a lot of, if you walk around here, there's a lot of breweries, we're still here and we're still going, which is really, really good to see. And we're making a go of it. So in terms of the industry being tough, it's tough, but also we're surviving. And a lot of the brewers, especially, particularly, people that have got really good brew pubs, like a lot of us have got, that's where you'll be able to get in people coming in and they're experiencing the brand and they'll be able to go, okay, and then that's where you'll be able to generate enough money to be able to keep the thing going. And we're all looking forward to the next couple of years when things are going to get better, but we've all knuckled down, we've all put our heads down, and we're all just keeping on going.
Yeah. Your comment about the brew pubs is really important. And I know, Eddie, talking to you, that despite the economy, you've actually grown. And for people that don't know, Altitude, based in Queenstown, they're in a tourist hotspot, which helps post-COVID with the return of tourism. But what is it that brings people in? How do you get them through the door? Because you've got a lot of tourists. How do they even know you exist?
Well, Well, yeah, there is a concept called the Ale Trail, which, the Guild has done a fantastic job of marketing. But Destination Queenstown, who's our local regional tourism operator, food and beverage tourism is now a legitimate flank within tourism marketing. People do come to Queenstown for the food and beverage offering. And, as crazy as that might sound, there are people from Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Auckland, Wellington, and they come down and they like to eat and drink, and they're not just raging till 4 o'clock in the morning on the Jägermeisters. They want to go to the vineyards. They want to go to the breweries. They want to eat at, hatted restaurants, and everything in between. And beer fits very neatly into that tourism offering, and it's incredibly complementary. We've got a number of, mechanical factors, literally people that will drive buses around and deliver people to our front door, which is a huge help. But really, what more could you want on holiday than a tasty beverage in a beautiful setting?
Yeah. Yes. The question for Brian is, do people go on holiday to Hamilton?
I don't think so.
So you've got a different proposition where you've got your main brew pub, you've got additional pubs around the country. Basically, you've got 2 in Auckland. How big is that for your model versus, say, the grocery, like on-premise versus grocery?
Oh, look, the ability to be able to come, hospitality is under pressure, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of hospitality venues really suffering, but it's where, for us as brewers, it's where we make our money. The draft is the engine of our business. So having pubs that serve our beer where you can walk in, and generally draft beer on keg is the freshest beer you'll ever get. And so we drive towards, we're really focused on driving that draft business. It's really, really important to us. And so we have, and through that, we've got, 600 or 700 taps around the country, and we focus on giving them the freshest beer we possibly can. When it comes to supermarkets, it's a totally different proposition, because they don't keep the beer cold. However, they do support us, and particularly New World are very, very good at supporting local. So keeping the beer local, keeping it fresh, and Eddie's really good at this as well. Keeping the beer local, keeping it fresh is probably one of the secrets of maintaining really good presence in grocery.
Thanks, man. What 2 beers of yours have we got here?
So we have a single hop, which is a new American hop called Crush. It's just going gangbusters in the US. Is that beer? The hazy.
Yep.
And the other one is a Rays of Glory, which is an APA. So both being specifically are made for Beervana.
Right. So the Rays of Glory is the clear version of Haze of Glory. Is it?
I can't comment, but yes. No, it's a bit more Munich malt, bit more carapils in it as well. Give it a bit more body because you've taken out the haze.
Right. Brian, on the grocery, we were talking the other day and you were mentioning about single can sales. Like, we've seen an industry that went really hard to 6-packs for a while. It was very competitive price-wise, good for the consumer. But now there's maybe a move back to single cans. Are you able to articulate why that's happening?
The move to single cans is really quite simple. It's about driving trial. So and for a consumer, it's a lower risk to be able to go to have a single six-pack. You're committing $20, and to buy a 6-pack, they go, oh, I hope it's good. But you can go in for $4, $5, $6, pick up a 330ml, 440ml can, and you can drive, and you can go up and pick up 10 of them. And so it's about driving trial, and through that you might go, okay, I really like that beer. So we're very late to the party on 6-packs, and our singles are like, I'm pretty sure it was last week. So that's how late we are. And then you go to New World Thornton. I know, we're not the sharpest. You go to New World Thornton, and there's just rows of singles. And we've done that. We've been late because we've had our squealer, which has been our single serve offering, and so now we're looking at, okay, how do we take our Haze of Glory, which is won so many awards, how do we take that for a 7% beer from a 1 litre bottle to a 330ml bottle? It makes it perfect. I've only got one word for that: Tuesday night. Perfect. Committing to a squealer on a Tuesday night, even for me, is a bit much. But a 330 ml can all day long.
Do we have any questions from the audience for our two brewers here?
Looking into this cup, how much of it is excise tax? Generally, I just look at the top line number, but about 20% of our production costs are excise.
So not only have you got excise, you got GST on top of that excise. So because they're two different departments, it's not called a tax on a tax. One's the custom and excise, and one is the IRD. So tax on a tax might be 20%. Oh, look, it also depends very much on the ABV. So if you're having a lower alcohol beer or a zero alcohol beer, it's zero, of course, and it just goes up, and it's a scale that gets out of control when you get up around that 7% alcohol, and it makes a big difference.
Sorry, I wanted to ask. I'm from Hamilton, so I just wanted to ask, man. Obviously, you've got your beer range, and you're also doing the espresso martinis and whatnot. What amount of business is your distilling and your cocktails part of now over beer? All your gins and the espresso martini. How much part of the business is that taken over?
We are still 95% beer insider. So, I'm a brewer, right? So we love beer at Good George. And so we are never, we are always focused on it. Our brewers have a great team. Some of them are here. We are focused on quality. We really are very proud of the beer we make. And so, but it's still 95%. The gins and the cocktails are fantastic. We won the trophy last Friday night for the Porn Star Martini. Who knew? Porn Star Martini could actually be a thing. But predominantly we are a beer and 60-40 beer versus even cider. We do a fair amount of cider. And Doris has been a rock star for us forever.
But to your point about excise, as the pressure has come on and excise has been ramped up, and it's an automatic multiplier every July, and that's forced businesses like us to think about zeros and think about other opportunities where we can achieve margins. And it's forced some really cool innovation. And a lot of attention has been directed towards ways that we can effectively avoid excise, specifically the zero market. And now even businesses like us, who are pretty small, have very drinkable zeros available. And it's been a huge help.
I think the other thing around the excise and the relation to ABV is that we have seen kind of people rebrewing beers to bring the ABVs down.
Correct. And that's absolutely something that we've done deliberately. And that's relying on the technical competence of our brewers to take 0.2, 0.3% off a beer and keep it excellent, but just shave every margin that you can so that we can still operate profitably. And we've seen a big separation between our core range beers and then singles. And so specialties, we've got this Pain Chocolat stout available, which is over 10%. So there's a market for that. They want it in single formats and they want it occasionally. But, it's about finding the right beer for the right person at the right time.
So what's the best thing that we as drinkers can do to support the industry?
I think when times are tough as they are, I think there are two themes that emerge. One is innovation, and that's finding new ways to produce drinks that people enjoy. But the other is trust. And I think consumers, when the pressure comes on, they move to brands that they trust to deliver products that they will enjoy. And I think that's the most important thing, is support the people that are excellent at what they do. And I think you'll see everyone in this building loves beer, and every producer in this building is still here because they've got a relationship with consumers, which is based on trust.
And the other one is support local, drink local, sip local, because local breweries are the heart of the community. So, most of the breweries that you see around here have got family businesses that, so stick with local. And we had lots of conversations around every 100 kilometers you go away from your brewery, not only does the beer quality go this down a little bit, but the brewery starts to lose money. So you get beyond 250 kilometers and you start to lose a bit of money. So in all cases, support local. Go to your local brewery, support your local brewery, because that's where you're going to get the best beer, and you're going to support people that actually give a shit about beer.
And I think that's again where the guild is helping with the ale trail that helps people discover their local breweries that they might not have known about. But also, when to Eddie's point about quality, is with the awards, you can look at the results of the Brewers Guild Awards. Look at who won heaps of medals, heaps of trophies. They're the ones that support those breweries. Get out there, go to visit their websites, buy their beer, go to their tap rooms, and again, those are two really positive things I think that the guild is doing to support the industry.
I had a question on the awards, and Brian, it's for you because you've judged all over the world. I know you travel a lot. Actually, Eddie, you can jump in as well. You've traveled a lot recently. I've always maintained that New Zealand beer is as good as anything you'll find anywhere else in the world. And based on just straight awards, what's your experience or commentary on that? Like, how does it stack up?
Yeah, look, you're right. Actually, I've judged the World Beer Cup since 2008 in the US, judged the Australian Beer Awards since 2000 something, and I've judged the New Zealand Beer Awards for forever. And I did the Australian Beer Awards in May and the New Zealand Beer Awards here. The quality of beer in New Zealand, hand on heart, is up there, if not better than any in the world. Now, you judge the first two rounds of the World Beer Cup, it's pretty freaking average, to be honest. You go to Australia and you're like, yep, these beers are good, but then you come back to New Zealand, and then when a beer comes across your table as a judge, and all four judges just go, oh my God, that's a gold. You're in that. That's one of those holy grail moments as a beer judge. When the four judges go, man, that is just gold. That is a real special moment. And we saw that a lot this year in New Zealand. We don't see it that much in Australia. There's a lot. The beers are good. Don't get me wrong. Any Australians listening, any Australians here, beer is very good. But I think I'm a little bit biased, but New Zealand's just a little bit better.
Yeah. And I think, Eddie, for people that don't know, Altitude are in a globe trotting collab program, and they've done collabs with brewers. You've just done one with the Koreans. You've done ones with people in England with Verdant, the US with Westbound and Down. So you've seen.
We've been around, and as Michael says, we've got this series called Adventures in Beer, which, as far as our accountant is concerned, is a totally legitimate exercise. But yeah, we've traveled the world. I'm not a beer judge, but when I go back to the UK, it's pretty disappointing. Just the standard of beer in a pub, it's not the best. I think we are incredibly spoiled here, spoiled for choice. But there is amazing beer all over the world. You just have to seek it out. And whether it's downtown Detroit, we're heading to Washington later this year, Cornwall, Breda in the Netherlands, it's happening all over the world.
And the other thing I just say about the beer and the beer awards as well is that for the Beer Awards New Zealand, this is not just us as Kiwis saying this. So, a few of us judge around the world, but we invite the best of the Australian judges to come across. Our head judge is Australian. And they come across and they go, oh my God, these beers are actually so much better than Australia. So it's not just us as Kiwis, we're very biased, but even the Australians are saying that.
Are you seeing kind of a trend over the years in terms of quality improving over time? Are you seeing, certainly we did a little bit of analysis in our episode on the Beer Awards about that they appear to be getting more medals. Is that a reflection of the improving quality?
It absolutely is. So we, as judges, I literally have judged since, I think, 1998. And, back then, a quarter of the beers were infected. Like, it was really hard as a judge. Full of diacetyl, they had sulfur up the wazoo, and you're like, oh my God. And you get some good ones, and they stood out. Over the years, we've tried to hold ourselves to account in terms of, are we as judges getting soft? Because we feel like, handing out a gold medal or a bronze medal, you got to earn it, right? And so then we look at it and we go, you know what? This is a bronze medal. It's a good beer. It just doesn't, it's not a beer that ticks a lot of boxes that could have, but man, you walk in a pub and you had this beer, you go, that's a good beer. And so even a bronze medal at New Zealand Beer Awards, and we've seen it, you're right, Martin, we've seen a lot of improvement in these medals. And as judges, we've done this for a long time, a lot of us, and we ask ourselves, have we become soft in our old age? But no, we haven't. The beer is definitely getting better.
Oh, I would agree. I think over the last decade, a lot of businesses like ours have developed systems, tightened processes, focused on quality, and just, tried to improve constantly. And that's been reflected in performance over the last 10 years. And I think those that had production problems or technical issues, they're either no longer with us or they've shrunk. And those that are growing and the breweries that are here and that are guild members, they're dedicated to quality and improvement,
Okay, we're just, we'll be wrapping up fairly soon. Is there any other questions? There's somebody right at the back. Let me run down the microphone.
And we've come over from Australia for this event. We came here many years ago. It's spectacular. In Australia now, we've got this scourge of thing called no alcohol beer. How do you guys treat that attitude? I think
You just say scourge.
it's scourge. Yeah, scourge. It's a blight and a pox upon beer drinkers. I'm not sure whether we could have some sort of referendum and have it stop. I've had a couple. Dreadful. So is that big here in NZ? Is the zero alcohol stuff taking off?
Yeah.
And how are you going to stop it?
He's making it. They're both making them.
So, yes, it is a growth category. Yes, it's a growth category. I think what we've seen, speaking to excise, ramping up and up and up, and zeros is a potential solution to get around that. What we've found is that everyone that got on board with craft beer in 2013, 2014, they're a decade older now. Their appetite for high-strength beers is not falling, but it has to be at the right occasion. And so everyday drinking, quite often people will have a fridge full of non-alcs plus experimental beers plus, some pale ales, and they'll mix it all up. The craft consumer drinks almost everything. Gone are the days where people were just beer drinkers or just craft beer drinkers specifically. And so this flexibility, is reflected in music. People listen to everything. I've just been listening to K-pop Demon Hunters, Minutemen, AC/DC. None of those genres belong together, but it's just what I enjoy. And so I think it's the same with beer.
So, scourge. Alcohol-free beer is coming and it ain't going anywhere. And it's going to get stronger and stronger because globally, alcohol's getting a bad rap. The WHO is launching this, there's no safe level. So we as brewers have to adapt and survive, and we have to be able to create things. So if you're going to drink something on a Monday night, Tuesday nights, remember, is Haze of Glory night. So Monday night is not alcohol-free beer night. Now, so when we first launched alcohol-free beer, we got a flood of people going, oh my God, Good George, I loved you, but now I'm never going to love you again. Having an alcohol-free beer is like having sex with yourself. And I was like, we printed it off and put it up on the wall. It was so funny. But we now know it's 15% of all of our sales, and it is not going anywhere. And so our challenge as brewers is to make it better and to be able to create a beer that ours has got 800 grams per hectoliter of Rewalker hops in it, and so it's a beer you can drink, but you don't have the alcohol of it. So if you're not having beers that taste awful, then you're not drinking the right ones.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually think the quality of New Zealand non-alcoholic beer is tremendous, and there's an old saying that the customer is always right, and they want them, they're buying them. People have to make them. So, and I think as Brian says, you make them as best you can. No one in New Zealand is just throwing out a shit product to capture whatever that market wants. They're actually going, we're going to give them something really good, and your beers, both of you, excellent non-alcs and good place to start. All right. Hey, we've run over times due to wind up. Will any last questions just filter up and grab these guys before they go? But otherwise, we'll call it an afternoon there. I really thank you for coming in and sitting down and spending time with us. And thanks to Eddie and Brian for their great insights and knowledge.
Yep.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And one thing, having recorded that a few months ago now, Martin, that it was nice to hear again, was that conversation about the quality of beer in New Zealand. And because we had only recently come out of the Brewers Guild Awards, and remarkable medal count, I think, at those awards, where something like 500 out of 625 entries got a medal. So quite a high success rate. And the question was, the judges getting more lenient? Is the beer getting better? And as you noted, Brian's comments around the quality of beer, I think it's a fair reflection. Like, New Zealand beer is very good.
Absolutely. And I think that, Brian is a global beer judge. He's been involved in, the World Beer Cup in the States and so on. So he knows, kind of how our beers stack up internationally. We don't, obviously, the Garage Project got a couple of medals in the World Beer Cup, and they're kind of pretty much our only successes. But that's because we don't enter that many.
No.
It's expensive and hard for New Zealand breweries to enter the World Beer Cup. But I think the fact that you've got a judge of the caliber of Brian, who's been involved in these global competitions, he knows where we stand internationally, and we are up there. It's not a case of the judges getting soft and giving a participation trophy to everybody. It's the quality of beers in New Zealand is continuing to rise and is at an international standard.
Yeah, and that's reflected again and again. It's Garage Project picking up a bronze medal at the Brussels Beer Challenge, which again, like, basically they took their chance, like in Magic 2021, to Belgium and put it up against, the Tilkins and Lindemans and Horau. I don't know how you even, that's an acronym, but there's a group that blends gers from all the 8 producers, so they went up against the very best and came back with a bronze medal. And part of me can just see all the, you can imagine people scratching their heads and going,
like,
what, New Zealand?
Where is New Zealand?
Yeah. Actually, I'd give the Belgians more credit for knowing where New Zealand is than Americans might.
That's true. That's true.
But you know what I mean? Like, even that,
Yeah.
that they could make a beer that's as good as what they're making in the heart of Lambic country. So,
Absolutely, and that's a good echo back to our episode that we recorded at Beervana with Garage Project, talking about
Yes.
talking about to Dave Bell about Chancellor and Magic. So if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to that episode, go and have a listen, because there's a bunch of really good information about Chancellor and Magic, which is now even more dripping in medals.
Yes, absolutely. It may be now pushing that Three Boys Leicester Stout for the most awarded beer in New Zealand history. It hasn't.
You'll have to update your spreadsheet. You'll have to update your spreadsheet to.
Yeah.
It's actually found wins in Belgian beer awards.
Yes, it's like in football, an away win is worth a lot more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What was
Win
so they still
in
have
Belgium.
away goals count double, Anyway, and I will say, just on the World Beer Cup in terms of New Zealand quality, like one of the overlooked things is back in the day, Monteith's Black picked up a medal at a World Beer Cup way back in the early 2000s, and so did Spate's Triple Hop Pilsner, which is interesting. So
I remember that beer.
Yeah.
That was a good
You
beer.
don't see Triple Hop was great. You don't see it much anymore. I think it's still on tap at Spates ale houses and whatnot, but pretty sure it's not in the bottle anymore. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's summer.
Last time I went into a States ale house, maybe
Yeah, there's not that many of them around. We're getting off subject, but I think a lot of them changed their names. There's the Good Home, which is now a kind of Lion franchise. And I think some of them used to be Max brew bars, and some of them maybe used to be Spates ale houses. So maybe, that's why gone to a more generic brand.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, speaking of Lion and international beers, I did see that they have finally wrangled Guinness Zero into New Zealand like you've been able to get it through people who do sort of parallel importing. But now Lion have got actual, because they're the distributor for it here. So I think, just riffing off the comments on non-alcoholic beer, I think
Scourge of non-alcoholic
the
beer.
Scourge. I think it's good that we'll see Guinness Zero a bit more widespread in New Zealand. But I don't know if I'll be doing a 60-40 with it. Did you read about that?
I did see the 60-40 trend.
Yeah.
I'm keen to give the Guinness Zero a go. I've heard good things. So if there's an official import, then I will track some down and give it a go.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be doing the same thing. I always thought that the Garage Project Tiny Stout, their non-alc one, was pretty good. It'd be interesting to put them side by side. Because not too many people, I can't think of anyone else that's done a non-alc stout. State of State did
the chocolate stout.
Yeah. But that was spiced. Like, it had quite a few spices in it, so a different kind of prospect. But yeah, I personally do not think non-alcs are a scourge. But I enjoy them. I think
the fact that we've got some actual options available is a great.
I mean, at the risk of running over time with this, we had some friends around for dinner the other night, and their daughter came. She'd come home from university. She's 5, and she was on. She said, "I'm not drinking because I'm on this fitness challenge or something." And all very good. And just she was drinking water, and I said, "What about a non-alc beer? Would you try one of those?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, I'll give it a go." And I had some Double Vision Tiny Ken, which I think is a great name. it's riffs off Heineken and Tiny, a little bit, Tiny Ken. And look, poured her a glass, and I said, look, if you don't like it, just tip it out. It's fine, And it was like, oh no, this is really good. And can I have another one? And so I think, that's just a really interesting perspective for me, that someone less than half my age, not really a beer drinker, hadn't thought about it and tried it and went, actually, this is really good. So it has a role, it has a place. She gets to sit there at the table outdoors with a can of beer in front of her like everyone else. And just, I think it's pretty cool. Don't ever feel you're missing out.
For it.
Yeah. All right. We'll put that Aussie in his box and we're
Yeah.
all right. Look, that's us for that episode. Do hang around before Christmas for two more we might squeeze in, Martin, before Christmas. We have one more Beervana session up our sleeve, and we'll do a year-ender. If it's not before Christmas, it'll land before the end of the year with, I guess, what would you say, our best and worst of the year, perhaps?
I think so. I think it's always good to reflect on the year that's gone.
So we will do that. In the meantime, share, like, feedback. Do let us know if we're hitting the mark for you or not. I guess the numbers will tell the story. But anyway, it's always enjoyable bringing it to you, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. Until next time, Martin, farewell.
Cheers.
Cheers. Indeed. Good night.